Harvard University in Boston, Massachusetts is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. With an acceptance rate of less than 6%, gaining admission into Harvard is extremely competitive, but some believe that for Asian Americans it is even more difficult.
One of the defining features for any student applying to college is their SAT score. As shown in this graph, almost 80% of Euro-American students with a 1400 through 1600 SAT score received admission to elite schools, while Asian American students in the same SAT bracket received acceptance only 30% of the time.
A study by Ron Oons exhibits how Ivy League universities do not correctly represent the demographics of the growing Asian American population. While the amount of college-age Asian Americans has grown significantly since 1990, as shown by the dotted black line, the population of Asian Americans in Ivy Leagues remains, essentially, constant. On the other hand, the admissions of Asian Americans at Caltech, as shown by the red line, has increased along with the general population. This is due to Proposition 209, which California passed in 1996. This law states that public colleges cannot take ethnicity into account when admitting applicants. This race-blind policy results in a larger proportion of Asian American students in the UC school system when compared to other colleges and universities. However, this also causes a decrease in African American enrollment, proving that this is not a perfect solution.
Harvard is currently tangled in a lawsuit against the Students for Fair Admissions, who argue that the college discriminates against Asian Americans in their application decisions, violating the Civil Rights Act. This case is still in court, so we went to Harvard to try and talk to Asian American students currently attending the university, but none were willing to speak on the issue because they felt too uncomfortable. Realizing just how controversial the case was, we instead reached out to current college students who were rejected from Ivy League schools, including Harvard, to understand their experience through the admissions process. You will hear how these students have experienced the model minority stereotype and how they believe this has affected their college admissions process.
Where do you go to school right now?
I go to school at Seton Hall University.
And did you apply to any Ivies?
Yes, I applied to Dartmouth College.
Did you get into Dartmouth?
No.
Hi, I'm Holly Chin. I'm a first year at Wellesley College, and I applied to Columbia Early Decision and got rejected.
I'm Kunal Gupta. I applied to Cornell and UPenn. I got rejected from both, and now I go to UC Berkeley.
What was your academic and extracurricular background in high school?
My SAT was a 1510 and my GPA was a 4.0 unweighted in high school. So I was a 3-season athlete. I was captain of the math team. I was part of the student council. I was a member of the student ambassadors. I was a peer mentor. I also volunteered frequently at the local hospitals, and I'm fluent in English, Vietnamese, and Spanish.
Okay, so I had a 376 on a 4 scale. I forget what it was out of 5, but I had a 2100 on the SAT. So my extracurriculars, I was a peer tutor, a guidance counselor aide. I played 2 varsity sports, basketball and softball. I worked at the local community bank. I was an intern at TripAdvisor, and I was vice president of FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America.
I had a 4.3 weighted GPA in high school. I got a 2200 on my SAT, and for extracurriculars, I played 2 sports, and I was on the debate team for a bit, and I was also in the math club as well.
Did you ever feel that when applying to Ivy Leagues you had to alter your Asian identity?
So I think that on paper I'm Asian, and my last name is obviously Holly. His last name is Chin, so I am Asian, but a lot of my background and the way I grew up was very Americanized, and that kind of shows in my extracurriculars, and just I don't speak Chinese and things like that. So I almost saw it as an advantage that a lot of who I was in my identity wasn't associated with a stereotypical Asian, and I thought that that would actually help me get into college.
Yeah, I actually did, and I highlighted my non-Asianness by highlighting the fact that I played a lot of sports throughout high school, and as well as doing many extracurriculars that are not stereotypically Asian.
Did you feel like you had to work harder than your non-Asian peers?
Yes, that's one of the biggest issues I faced applying to college because ever since when I was little, my parents also told me that growing up I have to compete against they're gonna see me as Asians and I'm gonna have to compete against other Asians, and we have this sort of stereotype that makes people believe that from a young age we're expected to get a 4.0 GPA, and we're supposed to play the piano, be this perfect student, and sort of stretch ourselves thin with every extracurricular we could while basically being perfect. So I feel that being Asian and applying to college sort of put this extra pressure on me because they're not going to see wow, he did really well. They're just going to see oh, he's just another stereotypical Asian. There's nothing great about him. He just got good grades.
Absolutely, I do think so. And statistically, Asians the odds are stacked against Asian people in terms of SAT score, extracurriculars, GPA. Asian people do have to compete with the other Asian people. And for example, my friend and I, so she's white and we both applied together, not together, but at the same time. And we had very similar applications on paper in every way, but she got in and I didn't. And to this day, I always wonder why she got in and I didn't.
I definitely do. I started out by taking a lot more rigorous classes than my peers, and to do well in them I had to work a lot harder. And in addition, I applied to many summer internships even as a high schooler, which not many people do.
Yeah, definitely, because I feel like when first you have to compete among your Asian peers, which is hard enough because one, there's so many of them. At least I had a lot. So you're competing with them plus all the other minorities. So one, you have to get perform academically and extracurricularly better than all your Asian peers. Plus you have to somehow stand out from all the other minorities that are applying as well. Yeah, we definitely had a lot of work in terms of first separating yourself out from your own race, and then showing that you stand out from other groups of races.
What are your thoughts on affirmative action?
I absolutely believe in affirmative action, and I think it's a great thing that we have, especially in the college admissions process, or just in general, because there are people that are so much more disadvantaged than I am, and they deserve the same opportunity that I've had in my life, and it's not fair it's basically allowing for diversity, and as an Asian American person and woman, I absolutely have to support something that allows for a greater number of people to have a chance at such a great education. It actually does hurt me in the college admissions process, but I think it helps a greater number of people, and that's what's more important.
The experiences of these students are the same as those told by countless other college-age Asian Americans. The issues of stereotyping, specifically Asian American stereotyping, must be talked about and recognized instead of ignoring its damaging effects. Universities must recognize that this inequality exists within the educational system and that the model minority is another falsified stereotype. The model minority both generalizes and lumps together the identity of millions of Asian Americans, when frankly, the experiences of each ethnicity are vastly different. Asian Americans face poverty, disparities in income, and suffer from mental health disorders. Focusing on the groups that do well makes the issues of those facing oppression appear non-existent.
After going to Cambridge and talking to many different Asian American students, we realized that the Students for Fair Admissions v. Harvard case is much more controversial than we originally expected. Although we tried to interview over 15 Asian American students, none of them felt comfortable in giving their opinion on this case or their personal experience with Harvard admissions. We cannot say exactly why this happened, but one possible explanation could be that this case is so close to home and students could have feared possible repercussions from their Harvard community.
One problem with this case is that it has become an argument about affirmative action, not harmful Asian American stereotypes. From the UC data, it is clear that getting rid of affirmative action would harm other minorities such as African Americans. If the court rules with the Student for Fair Admissions, marginalized ethnic and cultural groups would be placed at a disadvantage when applying to elite schools. A rejection of affirmative action would only create a meritocracy in which the wealthiest, most privileged Asian Americans would succeed at the expense of Asian Americans and lower socioeconomic classes. Prejudice in America still exists, but by giving a voice to the voiceless, we can create a community in which one's values is not determined by their ethnicity.